Hi there. Welcome to the Lifehack Show. We realize how tough it is to juggle all the ins and outs of daily life. Join me, Allie Kramer, Content Director of Lifehack, as I talk with top experts in the self-improvement sphere for insight on how to make life more enjoyable, no matter who you are. If you're looking to live your very best life, this podcast is made for you. In today's episode, we'll be talking to James Wallman, who is not only an author and entrepreneur, but also an expert on time management. Welcome, James. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Ali. Good to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's so great to have you with us because at Lifehack, we're all about time management. And as we recognize that time is likely the most valuable resource we have. So I'm really excited to be talking with you about this topic today. So you describe yourself as an author, an entrepreneur, and a futurist. What's it mean to be a futurist?
My take on this is that a historian tells a story about the past based on, you find what objective, concrete facts you have and you weave a story about the past. That's the job of a historian. The job of a journalist is to tell a story about the present based on what information they can find. And the job of a futurist is to tell a story about the future based on, again, the facts they can find out about the future.
Oh, I love that. I love that it's story based. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? How did you get into that type of work?
Well, I became a journalist in '04, back end of my 20s. I didn't really like the other things that I was doing. I became a journalist and I did some work for this company called the Future Laboratory in trend forecasting. My first piece was in 2004 on food, on the future of food, looking at
Oh, cool.
trends in food. And through those guys, I came across something called the Diffusion of Innovations, which was first described in the 1960s by a guy called Everett Rogers, an American sociologist based at the University of Iowa originally. And this diffusion of innovations is how ideas, innovations, new things, catch on and spread through cultures.
Mm.
And the ideas have been applied more than 5,000 times. It works. If you look at the take up of color televisions or firearms by people in what is now the Western United States, or the take up of certain drugs in terms of doctors prescribing them, or you look at the microwave oven or co-working spaces or escape rooms, they follow a very similar kind of pattern, which is this pattern of the diffusion of innovations. And if you find out enough about the present, about what's happening today, you can figure out what's going to be happening in the future, but using this diffusion of innovations.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating.
Yes, I was fascinated by it. At the time I was doing quite a lot of travel journalism,
Mhm.
which is super fun. It got a lot of travel into places like Kashmir and Uganda,
Mm.
and all over, which is really fun. I met some interesting people, but trying to figure out how to tell the future as a futurist is just hard. It's risking,
I
and
bet.
by definition, you're always wrong because it's the future.
Right.
You're making up a version of it. So what you try and do, if you look at Nate Silver's work, The Signal and the Noise, for example, is that there's the lovely phrase, the cone of uncertainty. The further away from today that we are, the harder we are, is to be correct, of course, because things happen, things change. It's an imperfect mix of science and art, I would say.
That's very cool. Now you've got me thinking about the future. Okay, so your book, Time and How to Spend It, The 7 Rules for Richer, Happier Days, it seems to be a go-to guide for anyone wanting to reclaim their time. Tell me what inspired you to write this book and what our listeners can look forward to learning within it.
It's a really nice way of putting it. Thank you. About, as a go-to guide to how to spend your time. So I really see it as a guide to modern life, living, but also a guide to the experience economy. So I wrote a previous book called Stuffication. Stuffication came directly out of my work as a forecaster. So as a futurist. So problems with capitalism, problems with materialistic capitalism, with materialism, problems with the environment, problems with well-being in our society, problems with inequality. I started to think quite some years ago now, okay, so what does this mean? Where is society going? Which is, of course, the work I've been doing since 2004. And I ended up writing this book called Stuffication. And Stuffication was a belief that we're moving from materialism to what I call experientialism. So instead of thinking we're going to find happiness, identity, and status in stuff, in material things, we are increasingly believing and increasingly acting as if we're going to find happiness, identity, and experience in experiences instead. So this idea of this move from materialism to experientialism. Now, when I first started talking about that, people just thought I was nuts. Uh, I didn't get a publisher. In fact, the people that published Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point almost bought my book in New York.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's month sending back lovely emails to my agent over here saying, it's getting great reads, super positive. And then eventually they came to an acquisition meeting and said, it's a great idea, but we don't believe it. It's not true.
Huh.
And a similar thing happened with a publisher in the UK. In fact, that was the general feedback. So many publishers rejected the book. The general feedback, having analysed it all, was great. We like the idea, the writing's great, etc. But this guy's wrong. It was amazing actually.
Yeah. What was your reaction to that?
It was to self-publish.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, well, it was either build an extension on the house or me give up my job and write the book. And I persuaded my wife that I really believed in this. And I believe it's one of the biggest socio-economic, socio-cultural trends of our era. Just in the same way that consumerism took off originally in the 20s in the US, and then the rest of the world kind of, caught up. I think this is a seismic shift in our value system. And that book was two things. So it was a forecast that came out of my work as a futurist, as to how the world is changing, but it was also included the discovery by social scientists that if you want to be happy, you should spend on experiences, not stuff. And I would give talks and I'd be on TV and radio shows and stuff, talking to people. And sometimes people would say, "Okay, great, this is great, James. So we shouldn't buy so many pairs of shoes and handbags and more stuff. We should spend on experiences. What kind of experiences should we spend our money and our time on? What should we do?" And
Mm-hmm.
I had a view, Ali, but I didn't know the answer. And when I say that, as I have an opinion. You could have an opinion. Lots of people can have opinions, but an opinion is nothing
Sure.
compared to some facts. So what I did was similar to the work with Stuffication, but similar to the work that I do. I'm embarrassingly geeky. I went and talked to people at places like Harvard and Stanford and MIT and NYU and Cambridge and Oxford and the LSE and Cornell, and read their science papers and stole their ideas, basically. I went and found people cleverer than me. And I stole their ideas and I put them in a book.
Yeah.
Which is a
Well,
glib.
that's how it all works, right? Everything is appropriated from somewhere, or
Yeah, yeah. So the book Time and How to Spend It is a distillation of really smart ideas, but really well researched, robust ideas. And I don't know how much time you spend reading science papers, but they can get a little dry.
Mm, mhm.
I think the service that I've done, I like to think this, and I think this propelled me to carry on writing the book, even in those dark days when I didn't know, how I was going to pull all this material together, is that I've distilled all that information and put it into something that's practical for people so that they can spend their time better.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think so many people certainly need that. It's one of the things that we cover a lot in Lifehack, and a lot of our readers will ask questions about it, and they'll say things like, there's just not enough time, or it's that resource that they don't really consider as super valuable, and kind of irreplaceable. I mean, you just simply cannot get your time back. And it's a great point that you make, that you can't really answer, like off the top of your head, what is the best way to spend your time. I'm sure it's a little bit personal, right, for each individual. um,
Yeah, look, it is personal in that you may enjoy thrillers and I like rom-coms. You might enjoy playing tennis while I enjoy going rock climbing. We've got different versions, but at base, we're all this is a really lovely way somebody put this to me once. We're all snowflakes, but we're all snow.
oh, I
We're
love that. Uh-huh.
incredibly individualistic and different. And I'm a huge fan of Michael Lewis's writing, and you might find his work really dull. you know what I mean? We're all different in some ways.
Sure.
We've got different types of music, but if but we're also, you and I, Ali, and everybody listening, we're humans, right? And this is a really obvious point, but my point from that is that, so we are a hyper-social species, which
Mhm.
means if we suffer from loneliness, we are more likely to die. I don't know if you've come across that data that shows, it's by Julia Holt-Lundstad, based at BYU, Brigham Young University in Utah, and she did a meta-analysis, which is like a review of studies, and she looked at data covering 3.4 million people and showed that if you are lonely it's loneliness, social isolation, and living alone, you are something like 29%, 32%, and 28%, or something like that. You are more likely to be not around anymore next time the researcher goes back to check in with you.
I
So
see.
mortality research is the easiest research in the world. You knock on someone's door and say, hello, how are you? And then 7 years later, you go back and knock again. And if they don't answer, then
Yeah.
it's tick or cross. It's really simple research. And yeah, 3.4 million people, if you're lonely, there is a 29% higher chance that you won't be around anymore. And there's the study conducted at Harvard, started in 1939. So was that 80 years now, incredibly long running study that shows that if you want to see who's going to be alive in the future, how much they exercise, how much they smoke, what they eat is not as important as the quantity and quality of their relationships. So
Interesting.
while we're all snowflakes and we have differences, at base there we've got some really interesting things that connect us, and one of those is the importance of relationships. And that's so the book contains the 7 basic principles that you should apply to your time. And I think of this, and I don't know if you're just going to think I'm making something up here and it just sounds silly, but I think of the book as playtime management as much as it's time management. I mean, it's,
Oh, I
as
like
opposed
that.
to, okay, I was just checking that. Well, you are making this up. But it's just that, lots of time management is very much how, you think about David Allen's work, for example, Getting Things Done, which is just, a wonderful book. A lot of time management, we apply it to work, and we're like, how can
Right.
I squeeze the most out of my, let's be realistic here, from the time I start checking my emails on my telephone through to the time I stop, or, the time that you are in the co-working space or in the office, which is, let's say for sake of it's 8:39ish till about sort of 6, 7 o'clock at night. How can I get the most out of that? But we actually have obviously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have um, if you think about time as a time bank, we all have bank accounts. You can take money out, you can put money into it. With the time bank that each one of us there's a certain amount.
Right.
You can take time out because it keeps coming out, and it's, seconds and minutes and hours it's coming out. You can't put time back in. So
Right.
once your time is up, your time's up. So it's one of the things I hope the book will do is make people realize that this is your finite resource. We're really worried, of course, about sustainability of the resources we have on our planet, but as a person,
Mm-hmm.
the one resource you have, you cannot get more of. That there is I don't know if the right word is a zero-sum game, but there is once it's gone, it's gone. There are no more cookies you can put back in that jar. So what you do with that time, and knowing how to spend your time, is, it's like the most important knowledge you could have, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And it's kind of life changing once you have that mindset shift, and you're like,
Well, recognizing and remember, the challenge is, it's a bit like what Eckhart Tolle says in terms of, you know, these things aren't difficult. The difficult thing is to make that decision again and again and again, because we're surrounded by so much noise in our culture that says, if you get this job, or you buy this car, or you have, I don't know, this hair dye put in your hair, or if you brush your hair this way, or if you wear these sneakers, or if you do this thing, you'll be, you'll get the girl, get the guy, get the job, get the life that you think is the fantasy life. If you get this bigger house, if you move to this postcode or zip code, if you have this
Mhm.
achievement, this is what life is about.
Right. That's success.
Yeah. Whereas actually, and I'm borrowing from Eckhart Tolle, I love his line where he says, it's something about you should ignore a mad world which says that success is anything other than a successful present moment, which is a really lovely
Mm-hmm.
idea. My take is, I guess, similar but different in that valuing your time, which is all we have, is knowing how to spend your time is really important. So if you can find out how to spend it, and that is the intention of the book, Time and How to Spend It, it's like super important. This work that I've done is to say, if you follow these 7 rules, you'll be happier, and as research shows, you'll be more successful too. Happiness leads to success, not success leads to happiness. So therefore, follow these 7 things and you'll be you'll be happier and more successful in life. You'll get more out of the time you have. There's a bunch of reasons, a handful of reasons why we're struggling with time, and the first one of those is that we think busyness is associated with status. So you
Mm-hmm.
see people that have got status and they appear to be really busy because they haven't got time to meet, or they can fit you into their diary, or they have an assistant who arranges for you to meet up with them in 3 months' time, or whatever. So the problem is, because important, successful people seem to be busy, we associate busyness with status. And you think about going back to the BlackBerry from the late noughts. Having a BlackBerry was a super sign of status, and you could check
Yeah.
email when you weren't in the office at work. Yeah, isn't that an amazing thing to do? But the problem with that is, of course, then because we think busyness is status, we start to act busy to
Uh-huh.
show our status. And the problem is, once you start acting something, you start becoming something.
Right.
So, you get an email from your boss at, how, bosses send emails at like 5:45 in the morning, or on a Sunday. And that kind of, you go, oh, wow, that's what you do. And so, look, I don't know if you've ever worked in an office and been in a situation where you've worked a bit late and you've got
Yes.
an email to your boss, but you save it and send it as the last email that you send. Right? Last thing you do is you send that email so your boss knows you stay till 7:43 p.m.
Yeah,
That kind of,
that's true.
lots of us, so that's one of the things. Another one is, there's just too much incoming information. You think about Twitter, email, Telegram, WhatsApp, text messaging.
Sure.
You think about the 24-hour rolling news cycle, and wonderful Donald Trump is always doing something completely crazy. There's just, there's way more incoming information. If you look at, what's his name? Henry David Thoreau.
Mm-hmm.
That's his name, isn't it? And if you read his book Walden,
Right.
from like the late 19th century, he complained about people being really busy because they were really interested in something that was happening, 50 miles away, or in a local, a town that didn't make any difference. But nowadays, there's this constant kind of stream of not just news, but incoming messages. So there's way too much to deal with. Like when
Right.
your boss sends you an email at 5:45 a.m., for example, right? So one of the things that happens at work is we multitask.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how many times you're told, right, that multitasking is bad, we all do it.
Mm-hmm.
How many tabs have you got open on your computer at the moment, for
Oh,
example?
see, I'm doing
Don't
really
worry.
well right now. I only have 4, but normally.
I'm impressed. Hold on, I've got to compare. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I know multitask. I've got 10 open, and they're all sitting there winking at me, going, "Come on, you need to, look at this." But what sociologists have found is they call this contaminated time. Now, because we
Mm-hmm.
multitask at work, which we shouldn't do, it takes 23.5 minutes to refocus. So if you go check an email in the middle of creating a piece of content for for the Lifehack Show, then that takes you 23.5 minutes to refocus. So it's a really bad way of doing things. But the problem is, because we multitask at work, because we think we're going to get more out, we started doing it in our spare time too. So,
Mm-hmm.
when you're, crashed out in front of the TV and you're watching The Office, or I only say that because I'm just a huge fan of The Office, the
That's
American
funny. We have this. We've just restarted it again. So yes.
Well, I'm on. Do you know what? I've got to a season that I've never got to.
Mhm.
That's funny. But let's say you're doing that, and at the same time you're checking on flights because you're going for a trip, or you're checking on some accommodation, or checking out Airbnb, and you're thinking about something else you should do, or maybe you're doing, you're ordering the groceries, and you're like, this is a smart way to operate because
Sure.
I'm enjoying myself. And then maybe your kid comes and you start talking to your child as well. Also, you're doing three things. The problem is that we think we're being really smart by multitasking, getting more out of our time. But what it does is it ends up making people feel really pushed for time, when it's
Sure.
much more enjoyable if you don't have what sociologists call contaminated time. Um, as well as too much incoming, there's too many possibilities in life. You think about the magic of the experience economy, and there's always a new pop-up restaurant to go to. There's always a new city with direct links, or there's a new restaurant that's just opened, or there's a new festival, a micro festival, a beer festival, a cheese festival, a comedy festival. There's so many things that we could do.
Yeah.
In the old world, you would buy the local Time Out or something, and you think, oh, there'd be options, of course, but now there's like a zillion options.
Yeah.
In where I live in the UK, the number of festivals has more than doubled in recent years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and you think about pop-ups, so you're trying to keep up. There's so much. So the problem is, you know, if you've got a certain amount of time, let's say, a weekend, and you've got three options, okay, you can figure out what to do. If you've got 50 options, part of you ends up getting FOMO, fear of missing out. What's the thing I should be doing? I should be doing more. And this is where social media comes in.
Right.
Because the problem is, if you're connected to, I don't know, 300 people, whatever, because we all keep up with those, we try and keep up with those people, is you've always got a friend who's doing something more interesting than you.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
there's always someone who's, on, I don't know, somewhere in LA having lunch with someone glamorous, or they're in Cannes at the Lions Festival, or
Mhm.
the movie festival, or they're in Africa doing something. But there's somebody, just doing something glamorous and fun at some point. And the thing is, because a few hundred people, and you sit there and think, wow, what's going on with my life? Because all I really did was walk around some local woods yesterday, and it was nice, but look at what they're doing, so that we end up with
Right.
this FOMO feeling because of social media. And of course, and a major problem with support social media supports the thing about too many incoming messages is our smartphones.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, that's a really great point. If our listeners had to take away three things that they could implement today to regain their time, and make more quality time.
Well, yeah, the first thing to do is to put your phone down.
Yeah.
They are magical devices, they're just, they do so much for us, and they connect us in so many ways. They're so powerful. So I'm not anti-devices at all, and I'm not anti-social media. But if you, turn your notifications off, because otherwise, ding, ding, ding. I can't believe so many people have their phone not on silent. I don't even
Oh, I
understand.
know.
Having your phone on silent is completely liberating, because then you can make calls when you want to, as opposed to when you're being interrupted. So turn your notifications off. Put your phone on airplane mode more. Maybe have techno Shabbat.
Mm.
Have a 24-hour period at the weekend, or have the whole weekend free. Um,
I can imagine for a lot of people listening, though, they're cringing at the idea of having an entire weekend without their phone, um, which is
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, at first, I've done it myself, and you find yourself patting your back pocket, picking it up. Um, and one of the things, that's important is to spend more time in nature. The
Mhm.
checklist, by the way, is stories, STORIES, and the O is for outside and offline. And one
Mm.
friend said to me, look, if I go to the park and I phone a friend, isn't that a great thing? It's handy to have my phone while being in nature. I said, well, that's fine, but try it without your phone as well. At first, it
Right.
is weird because we're so connected and we check in all the time. But just think, the average person, this is from Adam Alter at New York University, the Stern School of Business, checks their phone 150 times a day. That's the average person.
Oh, that's kind of, oh.
Yeah. Now just think about what that means in terms of, if you think what life was like before telephones, okay, the
Mhm.
main thing you would have from people would be the post, okay? And you just think, if you were, sat down at your kitchen table or wherever you do your work, and you're sat there and you're doing some writing, and you think, oh, I'll just go and see if I've got any messages. So you get up and you walk and you go and check the post if anything's come through, and you go back down and sit down. You start to do some work again, and then, oh, hold on a sec, you go and check the post again. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
ridiculous.
yeah, it's just a crazy thing. And I'm as addicted as other people, and there's amazing tools and tricks they use to turn us into addicts. They use the same stuff in our phones and the way they're designed as it is used in gambling machines. What do you call those gambling machines? You call them slot machine, gambling machines?
Yeah, I think there's slot machines is what we
Yeah.
call them.
Oh, okay, fine. Slot machines, the same way that those guys design slot machines is how they design the telephones.
Uh-huh.
So we're all, you check it all the time. And if you turn it off, you check it and there's nothing there. And after a while, it's easier to put it down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So first tip is to put that. One of the things that does, and the eye of the book is for intensity, which is about flow. And I suspect that you guys have covered flow many times. I suspect people listening to this are like, yeah, I get flow. You can actually design a flow experience, and flow is essential for creativity. It's essential for happiness. It's what, athletes call being in the zone. Eckhart Tolle called it being in the present. It's being here now and focusing. And that's what Cal Newport talks about in terms of doing deep work. If you want to be not just deep work in your work time, but deep enjoyment in your leisure time, in your free time, you need to be there. You need to be present. You need to be focused. And you can't be present and focused if you keep checking your telephone.
Absolutely.
Taking pictures to share with people that aren't there with you, to go, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. You need to be kind of there in the moment. And so therefore switching your device off or leaving it at home, it's worth, one of my tips would be when you go meet a friend, let them know beforehand, maybe say, look, I'm not going to bring my phone with me, and go out without your phone. It's so liberating.
Such a radical idea, but not really at all. And
Well,
it goes back to your point of how it takes about 23 minutes to just refocus once you've gotten off of your task or out of your flow. I mean, if you're checking your phone 150 times a day, I mean, it's like you're at a negative for the amount of time you have.
Hey, on that front, one of the other tips is to not charge your phone in the bedroom. So if you charge if you and your partner both bring your devices into the bedroom, you've got the devices that connect you to work, to deadlines, to your boss, to the people that work for you, to your co-workers, to your suppliers, to your ex, because you're probably connected with your ex on Facebook, even though you don't really want to be connected. So you're bringing all those people in. So you're bringing that potential for conversation and connect, with those people, which means that you're not as present. And there's data that shows you sleep better if you charge your phone somewhere other than the bedroom. And there's some other research that shows that you have more sex.
That's so fascinating. Just the simple idea of bringing those people into your bedroom. It's like you wouldn't do that in real life. But
that was your thing, and obviously,
sure, no judgment.
Yeah. But I love the idea that just not charging your phone in the bedroom means you have more sex. And if people listening take one thing out of this, that's the thing to take out, right?
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Huh. Good point.
And then sometimes people say to me, but I use it for my alarm. I'm like, you can buy an alarm clock. Remember those things?
Yeah, they exist. That's a really good point.
They're not expensive devices, and you get a good looking one for $10-15.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, that's great. So anything else that the listeners can take away from your
Wow, I could really go into in terms of how you design your time, in terms of that stories checklist. The first S is for story, and seeing your life as a hero's journey, which is the archetypal story that all human cultures tell, is a really important way of seeing things, because you take knockbacks really well. And if you aim for experiences in your time that give you stories, the magic of stories is they lead to this domino line, that sort of set off a domino line that leads to happiness. So if you have a story to tell, you connect with a person through something called mirror neurons, where their brain fires the same as yours as they're telling the story. Like, let's say I was riding a horse on a beach and I got thrown off into the water, for the sake of argument. You can't help but picture that, which means that our brain, our neurons are firing the same. This is this mirror neurons idea. What that is a physical manifestation of empathy. Empathy's connection. Connections is relationships, and relationships, as we've seen earlier, is basically happiness for humans, because we're
Yeah.
hypersocial species. So when you do something, whether it's at work or at play, if it gives you a story, that will bring you happiness, because
That's
you'll then,
beautiful.
even
Hmm.
if something goes wrong, I mean, there's more you can look into, and it's one of my favorite chapters in the book, that first chapter about story, because you can really understand why stories are so powerful for us. And the better the story that you have, the more likely you are to connect with people, which means if you want to be a leader and therefore successful, or if you want to get people to follow you, and that could be in work, in business, or it could be to bed, you need a better story. The better,
Hmm.
the better you connect with people is through story. So the better story, better your story, the more likely you'll be successful in life. And the best kind of story is the hero's journey, and there's quite a lot of detail about how you can design your time around the idea of the hero's journey to get more out.
That's so great. I really love how you worded that, and you're absolutely right. Anything that's been something that resonates with us, whether it be a personal inspiration or movies or books, that it's all based around a story, and the hero's journey. So I really encourage all the listeners to check that out. Um, so one last question before we run out of time. You've really accomplished quite a bit. What types of obstacles or any limitations have you faced to get where you are today?
I mean, I've messed up a lot. So um what obstacles? My own ability, probably my own
Mhm.
belief in myself. Actually, more than my ability, because I'm not that unable. I have a degree from Oxford, my first degree in classics. I went to business school at Cambridge recently because I ran a startup that failed in a really miserable, embarrassing way. It turns out I wasn't very capable at dealing with finances.
Okay.
um, I've become a decent writer through a lot of really bad writing. So, I think this is probably going to be the story I'm going to say a lot, which is I was really bad at something. I went, and what I tend to do is a mix of self-taught and go find people that know more than me. So, in terms of being a writer, I became a journalist, and I took one job. It was a really bad job at one of those kind of really low end women's weekly titles, where it's kind of like I caught my neighbor in bed with my husband and the dog. But also I covered stories where the husband or the ex-husband murdered the children to get back at the wife. I mean, pretty horrific stories.
Wow, yeah.
Really kind of nasty checkbook journalism, to be honest with you. And the people there were horrible. They really didn't like me. I mean, it was really badly paid. But I really learned there from people that were better than me at that kind of writing.
Hmm.
Uh, when I failed at my business, I was trying to learn. I did some online courses. I was kind of talking to some people, and I ended up realizing there that the best thing for me to do was to go to a really good school. So I went to Cambridge University, they got a business school there. And I went there and I just, just sucked up information so that I can be a less bad businessman. I'm a,
Sure.
I'm a less bad entrepreneur than I was before.
I love that. I mean, you really have taken the idea of turning your obstacles into opportunities to
Yeah.
learn and become
Well,
better.
do you mind if I just throw in there that that's the hero's journey? You need tests and allies and enemies and mentors. That's what the hero does. So once you recognize that we are on a hero's journey, and if something isn't working out, that's not just fine, it's good. And
Yeah.
to have that, the hero doesn't become the hero until they beat the biggest baddie.
Right.
You can't save the world from making a great cup of tea. You've got to do something that's meaningful, and it has to be hard. So you need your tests to find out who you are, and you need to find the right mentors and allies to support you, because that's what think about Luke Skywalker, think about Moana. I don't know if you've seen that,
Hmm.
those movies. But Luke Skywalker's got Han Solo and Princess Leia. He's got the team around him to support him to kind of go beat Darth Vader, etc. Do you mind if I use the Star Wars example?
Oh, that's great. I'm sure many people that'll resonate with a lot of listeners.
So you need those obstacles and those challenges to get over, because it encourages you to find people to help. So that hero's journey is just a really useful plan and way of thinking, as a metaphor for thinking about how we go through our process of life.
Yeah, I love it. Well, so how can our listeners find out more about your book?
The best thing to do is to read it. And I with my last book, Stuffication, you can get the idea, not stuff experiences, but there is more in terms of how we've gone from materialism to experiences. But with Time and How to Spend It, I guess you go to the website, timeandhowtospendit.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can read some answers about it. But read the book, because the thing about this stories checklist, which is story, transformation, outside and offline, relationships, intensity, extraordinary, which has got some really interesting stuff about beginnings and ends of experiences and what happens in the middle. And then the final one is status and significance. There's loads of little bits of gold in there that you can steal.
Love it.
Use to make your weekends and your holidays and your time off. But also, this, I said before about playtime management, to get the most out of your time. And if you follow this structure, you'll be happier and you'll be more successful.
That sounds great. We're so fortunate to have you sharing your insight with all of our listeners today. Absolutely.
What you guys do is awesome.
So all of our listeners out there, be sure to check out James's site, and that's timeandhowtospendit.com. And again, thank you so much, James. We're really happy to have you with us. You've really kind of I guess you've blown my mind today. So this is
Sweet, Ali, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a real honor to be, associated with, the content that you guys produce to help people hack their lives and get the most out of their time is awesome. So to be invited on is really an honor. So thank you.
You align with our mission quite well. So we appreciate it. Okay, that wraps up today's show. Thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for the next episode.